What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Jaron here from Real Bros. Who else do we got?
Lucas.
So muted, so swarthy.
Swarthy.
All right. Anyway, today I'm so excited. I think this is one of the videos I've been most excited to make since we started the channel. But Lucas has finally seen the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, and now we're going to talk about it. We're going to get his reaction. He just finished it
Literally minutes ago.
So if you don't know, when Batman v Superman came out, the theatrical version had its runtime or whatever, but then on Blu-ray they released an Ultimate Edition, kind of like a director's cut with 30 minutes of extra footage. So for some people, this made them like the movie a lot more and even like changed their minds. Other people, if depending on what they disliked, they still continue not liking the movie. So I think what I would say is, depending on what your issues were with that movie when it came out, if you had any, this may or may not change your mind. So we're here to find out if Lucas got his mind changed or anything. I don't know. I mean, we got to know where you're starting from, too,
anything.
Man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to be a spoiler-heavy review. If you haven't seen Batman v Superman, I mean, the Snyder Cut's coming out this week, and I'm like boiling with excitement. So just get on the train. I will conduct your train, and I'll be happy to welcome you aboard, and give you some complimentary iced tea or whatever. But it's a happy train.
Excited.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we just get into it? I mean, you just saw this.
Let's do it.
Lucas, tell me, what's your reaction compared? You just saw Ultimate.
Yeah.
Ultimate versus regular. Go.
Let's go. Okay, so I saw this movie in the theaters. I believe when it came out, like right when it came out, and then I saw it like a year or two later at a friend's house, and that was probably 3 years ago. Was the last time I saw it.
Oh my goodness!
So it's been a little while. And I will be completely honest with you, I don't necessarily know what the additional footage was. I don't know. I don't know if I don't have a good memory about the movie, or if it's just I wasn't paying attention during those parts or something. But so I don't remember. That doesn't mean that. Well, I don't know what that doesn't mean. Basically, when I first saw the movie, it just wasn't my favorite. It wasn't. I didn't think it was like a horrible movie, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't my favorite. And I remember that kind of being solidified last time I saw it. So, as you might have guessed, since I didn't remember or couldn't tell what the new footage was, my opinion hasn't changed.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So the biggest question on my heart is your heart broken hearing that news?
Yeah, we're fired. You're fired. I don't know who's fired.
I'm fired. We're both fired.
Okay, well that's really interesting. Yeah, because me, on the other hand, I saw the theatrical one. I think I saw it in theaters 6 times, and so yeah.
Wow.
So when the Ultimate version came out, I was like right on, like, oh my gosh, that's brand new. I can't believe it. So, yeah. So that'd be funny. I mean, I'll probably, as we continue to talk about this, point out what was new or not for you.
Yes. I need to know. I really need to know.
That's really funny to me.
I mean, it did feel a little longer, and there were some things that were like vaguely new.
Okay.
So did they extend the like vision scene or like the dream future apocalypse scene where like
a
Batman's
little
in the
bit,
desert?
yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit added there. Yeah, I haven't actually seen the theatrical one in a long time, so
All you know
my
is the
memory might be a
ultimate
little
cut.
fuzzy. But there's a lot of stuff I definitely do remember, and I do remember that being a little bit longer, but nothing significant
Okay.
in the nightmare sequence.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, that was the only thing that like stood out to me that was like this feels a little new
Okay.
um but yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's so
Yeah.
funny to me.
It just it you know what? Going forward in this discussion, I just want you to know, Jaron, you are my best friend and this will not tear us apart.
We'll find out.
Oh no.
Okay, so I was going to ask if you think the movie would have been received generally better if the Ultimate Edition had been released first, but I mean, it sounds like you don't remember enough to make that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Based on,
possible.
yeah, I think it would have.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think you should take it since I didn't recognize what the new stuff was. I think you should take it away and why do you think that it would have been received better if they had released it? What does it add?
Okay, so we'll get into more details in a bit, but basically, you get a little bit more about the Africa sequence and how Lex pulled all the strings on that. Which the theatrical one, it just happens, and you're like, why did they think Superman killed all these people? But in the Ultimate Edition, you see, oh, it's because they piled all their bodies and used a flamethrower on them, so it looks like he used the heat vision. They also took out the whole drone strike kind of subplot. You never find out the agent's name is Jimmy Olsen in the theatrical one. So there's a lot of detail there that just wasn't in the theatrical one. So people were like, "What? I guess this kind of makes sense, but what? Not really."
Got it.
Yeah, I think they also took out the fact that the woman they had speaking to the court or whoever, Senator June Finch, the African woman, they took out a lot of her plot in the theatrical one too. So you don't really understand why she's there, or you don't find out that she was forced to lie about it. So all these things that like make Lex's plot makes sense and how he's exactly pulling the strings just weren't there in the theatrical one. So you're just kind of left to guess, like, I guess Lex machined all this somehow, but I don't really know how. And so you get a little bit more. This is what I really appreciate with Clark Kent investigating Batman. And so the scene where he actually gets on the boat and rides the ferry across to Gotham and talks to different people, that's not in the theatrical one at all.
Got it.
And that's huge for why Clark could even think of fighting Superman in the first place. But anyway, that's a lot of more detailed stuff. So why don't you tell me what you think worked or didn't work as far as the plot or narrative goes?
Okay. So it's probably best to start off with what I think doesn't work, and that'll inform what I think does work. So I think the biggest problem in the movie for me was a lack of consistent conflict. So you have the like inciting incident in the beginning, which is, I think, supposed to be when Bruce Wayne sees Superman fighting Zod and completely destroys the city. And tons of people that he knows die. And that kind of sets it up to where he has this fear or resentment towards Superman. I think that was like a fine way to set up the conflict. But what continues to happen after that is there's a lot of disparate stuff that happens that seems very disconnected, and it doesn't start to somewhat be connected until the end, where you start to learn, okay, Lex Luthor was like setting up all this stuff to try and basically frame Superman for all these things, and alter public opinion of him. I think the biggest reason why that's a problem is it really did feel like for most of the movie there was a lot of disparate stuff happening, and I wasn't sure what characters were trying to achieve, what they were doing, why they were doing a lot of stuff that they were doing. I think there were a lot of scenes where like stuff happens, but there's not a ton of like there aren't a ton of obstacles to overcome to reach whatever the turning point in that scene is. So
All right, so give me an example of one of those.
An example of so a lot of like the Lois Lane stuff where she's trying to find the origins of the bullet. So I mean there are a lot of scenes where she just investigates and either people tell her stuff or they don't, and then the scene is over. So she goes in, she wants to learn about the bullet. She goes to the admiral or whatever he is, the Secretary of Defense. I don't remember who it was, but
Swanwick.
There you go. Yeah. And asks him about the bullet in the bathroom, and he's just basically like, no. And then the scene is over. Then later, she is shown meeting with him, and he does tell her. Maybe I missed something, but in that whole arc, there wasn't really much of like an overcoming. It just kind of solved itself. The same kind of goes with Clark and his investigation of Batman. There wasn't a ton of resistance other than Perry White saying, no, I want you to do like the sports stuff. Don't investigate Batman. But I mean, Clark Kent basically just does it anyway. And there really isn't much in the way of like an obstacle or anything getting in the way. Moral, mental, emotional, or otherwise. Definitely not like any physical threats to him. But yeah, so I guess the parts where it worked for me was when the stakes were clear, when characters had something very clear that they were going to try and achieve, and that there were obstacles in the way. So the first scene that I remember in the movie that was effective for me was the Gala scene, where Batman goes in as Bruce Wayne to try and take data from, I don't remember, it was like the library or something.
It was Lex's. It was at Lex's house, but it was a party for the library.
Okay, yeah.
The library
so his
fundraiser.
Yeah, his server room or whatever. He's trying to get the data from it. And yeah, I knew. So going in, I knew Batman had to get the data. So he goes in and runs into some trouble getting down there and putting the device on because the woman follows him down, and he almost gets caught. So then he has to leave and is not able to monitor the data. So as that's going, he's back upstairs, talks to Clark Kent, Lex Luthor, and then goes back down, and the thing's gone, and he sees Wonder Woman took it. So like that whole sequence was obvious what the stakes were, what the obstacles were, and there were some fun little, I guess, twists that happened throughout that sequence where you know what he's trying to do, and at the end of the sequence he doesn't get it because someone else has taken it. So he's kind of forced to do something else there. That was an example of like good conflict. Another one, I think the next one that like stood out to me was the Batman warehouse scene. And
oh yeah. So
that was, for me, my favorite part of the movie. I think it's most people's favorite part because of the fight choreography. It's just awesome. That's like one of those BA scenes in any modern movie, really. It's just awesome. So that was good because of that. But I also think it was good because, again, the stakes are very clear as to what the characters are going to do or what they want to do. So Batman is going in to save Martha. That's it. And you know the stakes are, if he doesn't get to her in time, she's going to burn alive. And his obstacles are all very physical in nature. You know, he has to fight through a bunch of guys. So, yeah, I think that as far as like plot and narrative go, I think that sums up a lot of my problems with with the narrative. It was a lot of disparate stuff going on. And
so it would have maybe helped if every scene was maybe more focused on a singular goal, or if each singular goal that maybe were disparate things was stated more clearly.
I think so, yeah. Either in relation to the plot or in relation to character. So, and I think those are kind of the two modes for conflict. Either you have some kind of emotional goal or moment, or you have some kind of more plot-oriented goal.
Okay. So I guess that gets into character stuff. What did or didn't work for you character-wise?
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think, is where a lot of people have a lot of issues with the movie, just based on how the characters act. Because Batman and Superman definitely act different than how you might expect in the Justice League animated cartoon.
Yeah. And I understand that. That wasn't necessarily my biggest problem, and maybe partly because I've talked to you about this movie a lot, and
I talk about this movie a lot.
Yeah, you've clued me in on some of the differences between iterations of Batman and Superman, and also I think coming out of Man of Steel, which is a very different expression of Superman. Like he kills his first villain, and that was our first exposure to Superman in the cinematic, the new DC cinematic universe. So, I don't know if that was it so much for me. I think a lot of it was like character motivation. I didn't follow. Let me try and
hit me with the questions, man.
I'm trying to like organize some of this stuff. So you have the motivation scene in the or the inciting incident scene in the beginning where Superman is reckless. In Bruce Wayne's eyes, Superman is a threat because he has the power to destroy humanity, basically. Up until basically for the whole movie, you don't really have any reason to think that Batman is or Superman is dangerous because of the choices he's made, only because of his, you could argue, his carelessness in fighting off something that's like justifiably, I don't know. It's justifiable for him to have some kind of fight against this thing to stop it.
Okay. Justifiably threatening.
Yeah. So it didn't strike me that Batman had a reason to be, upset at Superman or to be afraid of him, per se. So I guess I didn't fully buy into his motivation to putting Superman down. It didn't. I didn't buy it. And as far as Superman goes, it didn't strike me as believable either for him to be focusing so much on Batman. It seemed like there was a lot of wavering on his part about, the public perception of him, what his purpose is, where he fits in, whether or not he should be saving people or just not getting involved. And then on the side, there's like this Batman figure in Gotham that's fighting crime on his own. And I don't really understand why Superman's focus was Batman in the story. There wasn't something like ideological that was different about them. I mean, they're both vigilantes. They're both kind of operating on their own outside of any supervision. They both kind of get to determine who lives and who dies. So it just came across as like not only like hypocritical, but also it just didn't make any logical sense. There's nothing that Batman was doing that was like way outside of, bounds. He wasn't being on par with the crime bosses that he was fighting. He was branding people and they were dying in prison. And you could say that was like an extreme measure, but I don't know if as an audience member watching it, I don't know if I would consider that any more severe than Superman breaking somebody's neck because he's killing people. Batman's doing something similar. He's rescuing, human slaves or whatever he was doing, and essentially just casting a judgment on them. So those are the big concerns about me. For me, I think character-wise, one more, and we can talk about this one that I just talked about first, if you want. Yeah, but
oh gosh. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Write down what you were gonna say next, I guess, because we always forget stuff.
I know.
I got my pen out in front of me.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So wow. So as far as Batman, you didn't. So the prologue scene, I don't know if I would call that the inciting incident for the story. It's more like a prologue for me that gives us Batman's state of mind going into the plot and into the inciting incident, which I would call the Africa incident.
Okay.
That's what I would think of as the inciting one. But yeah, so Batman's prologue combined with the Africa scene, and then the Capitol building exploding when Superman goes to. So between all that, you're still like, yeah, I don't know if Batman would really want to kill this guy.
Yeah, I also so one thing I didn't mention yet, which was the next thing that I was going to get into, is a lot of the like motivation for what little there is to me as motivation for there to be conflict stems from perception of Superman being a villain, and it's all circumstantial. There's not one thing that shows Superman actively made a decision to wipe these people out, or he was brutal and chaotic, or whatever he was supposed to be dangerous of doing. It was all kind of happenstance, and because it was circumstantial and it was just up to public perception whether or not Superman did this stuff and whether or not he was a threat. It could have been easily resolved by Superman just stating, I did the best I could. This is what happened. When I got there, these people were already dead. Something like that. A public announcement, a public defense of himself, or simply talking to whoever is, painting him to be that way, whether it's the media, whether it's Batman later in the story. They have a few moments where there's conversations, and it just doesn't happen. There's no effort at communicating that stuff or Superman defending himself. It kind of reminded me of something that bugs me in some movies where there's like a misunderstanding in the plot where it's usually between like romance interests, where like the girl thinks the man did something super evil, and it's just the movie that comes to mind is Shrek. So this bugs me in Shrek. It bugs me in all sorts of movies. But there's a scene where he's sitting it's Fiona sitting in like a stone tower or something, a windmill in the middle of the field, and she says something along the lines of like, who would ever want such a monster? And Shrek is walking up to the door with, a bouquet, and he's about to knock on the door to tell her how he feels. But he hears that, who would ever want to be with a monster? And he thinks she's talking about him, so he just walks away. That always bugs me so much because it's just this like simple miscommunication, and the audience knows if you just communicate properly, then that conflict would be over. It doesn't seem genuine to me, I guess. So it was kind of that scenario for me, in that I just felt like, okay, well, like the public perception is divided supposedly, specifically with Batman, and I think that comes to a head for me in the conflict between Superman and Batman, where Superman's trying to tell him like, hey, I just need your help to save my mom, basically. and he just can't get the words out, even when it comes time for him to be in control, which he is in control several times throughout that fight. You know, he pushes him down, he throws him around, and he has his moment where he could be like, look, Batman, I need your help. My mom's in trouble. And he doesn't say it. And I remember thinking this when I first saw the movie and rewatching it. I just, as an audience member, I wanted him to like make the human effort of saying, let's stop fighting. You know, like I need your help to save my mom. And so I think more than just those things not being enough, I think that circumstantial conflict was just it bugged me.
Okay, so in other words, just talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so for Batman stuff, so I think, you know, I would say the reason he's not, you know, willing to give Superman a chance, we know from his conversations with Alfred that he's gone to this place where he's just kind of convinced that, you know, he says how many good guys are left, how many stayed that way. So in other words, like Harvey Dent says, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So so that combined with and this is where maybe me spending too much time analyzing this movie comes into play. But one of the allegories I get a strong sense of in this movie is American paranoia post 9/11. So I think we can probably find this. I think there's even a video where George Bush himself says something very close to what Bruce says about if there's even a 1% chance of them being our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty. I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of, if you know that George Bush quote already, which I didn't, then that would seem pretty on the nose. Like, oh, this is definitely about, racism against Middle Eastern people. Or immigrants in general. And then it's kind of relevant to a lot of the, you know, immigration conflicts we have in America today. And like, should we, you know, have refugees or not? Are they gonna, you know, be criminals, or are they gonna help society? You know, so because Bruce is kind of a stand-in for, you know, American paranoia, I'm like, okay, this kind of makes sense for the plot, right? But I totally grant that most people aren't going to watch this movie or any superhero movie and be like, oh, what does this to say about the state of affairs in America today? So that's one of those that's a reason why I don't care about everybody liking this movie, because it's, you know, it is what it is. You can be into it or not. That's fine. Totally. One of the things I like, though, is that it's one of those movies I can dig into because it's with characters that I've grown up loving, and the director, whether the execution of the movie is phenomenal or not, he's at least attempting to say something concrete and meaningful. Versus just like, oh, you know, let's do some focus testing and see if we can squeeze out $1 billion opening weekend.
I totally agree with you there. I would much rather watch a movie about a director or a writer trying to say something than Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh my God, poor girl. Yeah. One of these days I will find out what was trying to be said in that movie, and I'll give it a little bit of a chance.
It's not going to make me think it's... Sorry, Wonder Woman.
Sorry. I love you. I love you guys. I even love Patty Jenkins.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't know what you guys are doing with that one. Anyway, what you were also talking about, Superman not talking or being able to talk. Yeah, that's definitely one of those things where I'm like, I have to acknowledge and kind of suspend disbelief. Like, okay, they're just not talking because there needs to be a fight for the movie. I'll say straight out of the gate, I don't think this movie's 100% perfect and I'm like blind to its flaws. Like I acknowledge them fully. But I also have huge respect and love for what the movie is trying to be. So yeah, so you can like love a thing and know it's not the best. And I always say that some of my favorite movies aren't the movies I think are objectively the best ones. My favorite Marvel movie, we all know, it's the first Thor, but people didn't like Thor until Ragnarok for some reason. I just want to get rid of that. So it's all good. You just like what you like.
Yes.
But be aware that, if you're trying to think about technical quality of a movie, it's different than what speaks to your heart. And it's fine to make that distinction. Yeah, but one thing I do think about as far as Superman actually fighting Batman instead of talking to him is we have the scene where, and I get into this in the video I'm working on for visual analysis, but I do think what the intent of the movie is that Superman wants to talk to Batman, but he's also willing to take him out if he has to. So he's on the fence. So he's like, if I can't talk this guy, I do have to get rid of him because my mom's life is on the line. And that's what we saw with Zod, is he clearly did not want to kill Zod. And in that climactic moment, he's begging him to stop, and Zod straight up says never, which is clearly meant to be more than just a villain being villainous, like, I'll never. But it's like, I'm actually going to kill everybody unless you stop me.
Yeah.
So that's why I had to put the dog down, so to speak. So we know Superman has been in that position before where if he cannot reason with someone, then he's got to, make the call. But I think he hates being in that position and wants to do everything he can to not be there.
Yeah. Which is, I think, why I wanted to see him talk to him so badly. I
think we would have seen that in a different movie.
In a different movie, we would have seen that. Yeah, for sure. And I think, too... So before they get into the fight, they set up a lot of the conflict for Batman versus Superman, or they try to kind of build up the tension. For Batman, I think it's a little bit more solid. They establish that, like, okay, he's clearly afraid of what's possible with this guy and is paranoid of him. With Superman, I didn't really understand why he was so concerned about Batman, and I feel like there's something that I might have missed. So do you remember what Superman's motivation was for stopping Batman? I mean, whatever it was, it kind of went out the window after he meets Lex Luthor and he's like, I have your mom. But yeah, do you recall what some of that stuff was? What?
Yeah, I think Clark is looking at it from the perspective of just looking out for like the little person. And I think that's cool that he's this godlike character, but he's trying to think about like what the average Joe thinks of Batman, and that's what for me is cool about why he goes to Gotham and he talks literally to just regular people, like, hey, I'm trying to investigate stuff going on here, do you know where like this woman is? Then he sees the guy talk about Batman, he's like, what's up with Batman? So I think that it's a lot of it that is informed by just him caring about normal people, and not thinking that he's above them, but he's literally on their level on the street. And that's illustrated by him choosing to take the ferry from Metropolis to Gotham instead of flying there. I think that's there to show us that he really thinks of himself as a normal guy. And so I think it's just more like that. He just sees something and he feels like he has to help, and that's why he had that reaction when he sees the newspaper headlines about Batman's branding, and he's reading the blogs and stuff about it. So I think it's just something that kind of bothers him. Like, there's this guy running around and ostensibly terrorizing the people, and no one's doing anything about it. Like, Perry won't let me write about it. Someone's got to do something. Yeah. So for him, I think it's not even like I have to, beat the snot of this guy and take him out. But it's basically it's like the one criticism I think that I see this movie get a lot is people just wanted them to have like some kind of ideological battle about how they approach crime fighting, and then come to blows over it. And I think that's frankly a pretty dumb thing to want for this movie, because and I double checked this today, there's no story or comic where Batman and Superman actually like get into a huge fight just because they have disagreements on crime fighting. So one story from Man of Steel issue 3 in 1983, I think, by John Byrne, is Superman finds out about Batman, and he's like, I don't really think that he's kind of like a crazy vigilante. I think he might be harming innocent people. I'm going to go check out what this guy's doing. And he doesn't start a fight. He just tries to talk to him like, hey, you're going to make this difficult for everybody who's wearing a costume and trying to help people. Why don't you stop what you're doing? Like, I could take you to jail before you even react, right? What Batman does is he says, I anticipated you coming here and trying to stop me. So what I've done is I have I think some kind of electromagnetic field around my body. If you penetrate that field, there's a device that will blow up an innocent person somewhere in this city. And Superman's like, are you crazy? Whoa. You would do that? What? So they have to team up. Superman basically has to play along with Batman as they investigate this criminal and have to capture her or whatever. And at the end of the comic, it turns out that Batman placed the bomb on himself. And that helps really Superman kind of understand, like, oh, like he wouldn't really do that to someone. He's actually trying to help people. So they're not exactly friends when they leave, but they come to understand and respect each other. Yeah. And that was the one story, one interpretation of their first meeting. But again, they didn't just start clobbering each other. And The Dark Knight Returns, which this movie heavily is references, influenced by.
I was hoping you would talk about this.
Oh yeah, the reason they fight is because Batman is he realizes the government's gone to crap and I need to do something. And Superman's literally a pawn for the president, just doing whatever the United States government wants. Yep. We literally could not get that story in Zack Snyder's universe. And I don't think nobody wants to see Superman being a United States government clown, right? Yeah. When they fought in Hush, it was because Superman was mind controlled. It's usually stuff like that where they wouldn't just meet each other and be like, Batman, you're a little bit too aggressive with the bad guys. I think we should have a big fight. That would be like so dumb.
Okay, is it too far to say that I felt like that was kind of what happened in this movie? It felt like it. So they have the motivation for Martha. That's the only reason. But they play it up as though there is some conflict between them at the beginning.
Do they play it up like that, or?
I felt because what you were saying of Batman branding people and Superman basically saying, like, I can't stand for this. He's being essentially like he's just being too violent or whatever.
Yeah, so that's where they have a conflict, and that's when he kicks Batman's Batmobile and is like, "Stop being Batman."
Right.
To him, that's the whole conflict, and he's done.
Yeah. So, and I guess as an audience member, I'm seeing that as an expectation that's build up for the conflict that they're going to have, and it's kind of directed that way in the movie, where Batman feels like that is the start of the conflict. Superman, I guess, Superman's just kind of like, well, whatever, I showed him. But yeah, it's I guess what I appreciate about I agree with you, in this universe you can't make Superman a government pawn. Like, it just doesn't work. What I was maybe hoping for was a little bit more of a personal motivation for that conflict. So I guess in The Dark Knight Returns, both characters, and I remember seeing, I think there's a cartoon movie Am I right? I think I remember watching it. Because I remember there being a scene where they're talking in a field, I think. And there's this like hilarious picture in my head of Superman and a bald eagle like landing on his arm. It's so funny. But they have like an ideological discussion, if I remember correctly. And I guess it stuck out to me because the conflict was personal. It came about because of things that the characters believed, and they made decisions based on those convictions to the point where they were willing to fight each other about them. And the movie made me feel like what was trying to be built up was that kind of ideological conflict, but it never materialized. At least on one side, it never materialized. And I don't think it was properly developed on Batman's side. I feel like it should have been reinforced a little bit more. But I found myself hoping for some of those things.
I see. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, to me, I don't think, I wouldn't say the movie tries to play up their conflict based on them having solely different ideologies, and that's the reason they would fully come to blows. I think that's just one layer of them disliking each other, specifically Superman disliking Batman, and being willing to take him down if necessary. But I don't think Superman would have ever actually fought Batman without the pressure of his mother being kidnapped at point in death. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Batman, though, I think his portrayal in this movie, he definitely wanted to kill Superman because of paranoia, and he's convinced himself that after years of crime fighting and criminals just keep coming back, if he wants to make any kind of meaningful decision, he's got to take out Superman. And that's kind of a crazy thought, but I think the part of the movie is showing like Batman's gone kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And is there a way to bring this guy back from the edge? And I think that's a cool message that he does come back from the edge.
Yeah, no, I agree with. I think that your interpretation of a lot of the like imagery in the movies and some of what I think Zack Snyder was trying to get across is like really powerful. And everybody who's watching this, look forward to Jaron's analysis of this movie. I think has great payoff. And I'm all about it. I'm on board with that. And I think, obviously you were able to kind of mine it for its power and its impact. Having heard you talk about it, I wish that the movie had done a better job of setting that up and paying it off, because I do think that it's a really powerful turn. There's just so much in the movie that kind of hamstrings it for me. So needless to say, I'm looking forward to watching your video and have my eyes open a little bit too.
Yeah. You've seen this movie like 3 times. I saw it 6 times in theaters just to like figure out what I even feel about it, because I definitely didn't go into this movie understanding the importance of every symbol or metaphor or allegory. It's years of watching Batman cartoons and Superman comics and all this. I definitely have expectations, and the movie definitely did not go where I would have expected it to go.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just felt like, it probably helps that around this time is when I started to really learn how to do, more in-depth film analysis. So it's like I want to, and I did come to respect Snyder's work in that respect. So I'm like, I want to know like really what's going on here, and why, why do people have such strong reactions to this movie? What's Zack Snyder trying to tell us? Is his execution bad? Or is it just breaking expectation? Or could both things be true? So I all that to say, I didn't just come up with all these interpretations just after one viewing. It took me work like love to get to this point.
Right.
And doing that's been really valuable for me because I watch other movies now so much more analytically, and I think I'm able to glean a lot more meaning on initial viewing than I would before I even started this whole kind of hobby. So
yeah.
And for me, Batman v Superman is so rich because I can just keep going and going. One of the latest things I was looking at, and we touched on this on the phone earlier, is a lot of people interpret this movie as more of a 5-act revenge tragedy than like a traditional 3-act movie that we're more accustomed to seeing. And that's kind of cool looking at it through the lens of like how similar is this to something like Hamlet, and what are the tropes of a revenge tragedy? What are the genre tropes for that? And conventions, and like, oh wow, there's like ghosts. So this is a thing I was just starting to learn about today. Is like, so Hamlet's pressured by the ghost of his father to get revenge against Claudius, right? And so you get and then he has conversations with this ghost, and it's influencing him throughout the play. And then you get stuff like that with Batman. He's clearly tormented by the ghost of his parents, but also Vernon Keefe, the wheelchair guy. One of the letters he gets about Vernon literally says, "I am your ghost," and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Or Superman, he says to Lois when he's at his lowest point, I've been doing the Superman thing for so long, righting wrongs for a ghost, doing what my father wanted. It's like, okay, so now there's a ghost motif that I hadn't really paid that much attention to. So I got my copy of Hamlet right here. I'm gonna be digging into this and comparing it to BvS. So it's just fun for me to keep digging and finding out what else is in this movie.
Yeah.
You get the references to old movies like Excalibur. There was the Excalibur showing at the theater that they went to. But also the last scene, the way the Superman kills Doomsday is just like the way Arthur defeats Mordred, where he gets stabbed and has to pull himself in to get him. It's like, so I would just love that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
So then that begs questions like, well, okay, how do the writers and directors blend Arthurian myth tropes into this movie? And then they blend that with a 9/11 paranoia allegory, and then a revenge tragedy. It's like, oh my gosh, they're trying a lot of stuff with this movie, apparently. So, I mean, and that's just really cool.
Yeah. So, Zack Snyder's very, very creative, and I think he's very aware. I know it bugs you so much when you hear that Zack Snyder is a visual director, but from my perspective, I think that's a compliment to him, and it is clear, especially knowing you and all of the visual cues and themes that you've analyzed, that he's a really smart guy when it comes to planting these archetypes and tropes and themes into the way that things happen. Because with most screenwriters, they write that things happen and that they might happen in a particular way, but it's part of the director's job to establish what that looks like on screen, how the actors do it, what the framing is, what certain visual parallels are, and I think that's something that I would say about Zack Snyder, is that as a compliment, he is a visual director, and given good enough written material, I think he can be a brilliant director. And the movie that comes to mind for me is Watchmen. He does such a good job with stuff that's written so well, and it blends together, I think, beautifully in that movie. So I think, he's not a hack job. He's not a fool. Like, he knows his craft really well. Yeah, I will say I think his strengths lie in visual direction mainly. But I don't mean that as any kind of slight.
Yeah. Yeah. To be very clear, what bugs me is when people say he's all style and no substance. I agree.
Yes.
He's visually oriented. Yeah. It's known he went to like art school, so he's a big visual guy.
Yeah. No, definitely substance. He knows his substance for sure.
I think he's good at incorporating the substance into the visuals, which I don't think people give enough credit for.
Yeah.
Like one example is like in Man of Steel, where Superman's at the church talking to the priest, and there's a stained glass painting of Jesus behind him, and people kind of like roll their eyes like, oh my gosh, he's just saying Superman's like Jesus, and it's very on the nose. But the stained glass image behind him specifically is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's trying to figure out is there a way I can get through this without this big scary conflict, and that's exactly what Superman's at the church for. So it's his Gethsemane moment. But most people didn't look at it that deeply. They're just like, oh yeah, Jesus, space Jesus. For the record, I also dislike when people call Jedi space wizards, and they tried it. I dislike that. It's like, because no one says it genuinely. They always say it in a way that's like, I can't believe you're even bothering to talk about Star Wars seriously, because it's just about space wizards. It's
pejorative.
It's like so condescending, pejorative. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, so now that you've seen Ultimate Cut, even though you don't even know any differences between it and the theatrical, well, how does that make you feel about then Justice League Snyder Cut coming out this week?
Yeah.
Compared to Justice League as it's termed.
Well, okay, I'll say this. I'm curious to see what Zack Snyder is able to do with a miniseries as opposed to a movie. There's so much that he has to say and wants to say, it seems like. And so many different... I kept thinking a lot of the time with this movie, with BvS, that there were a lot of scenes that could have been one through line for the rest of the movie that led somewhere. But it was so disparate that it just felt disconnected. So with a miniseries, I think you have a better format for something like that. You can set up a conflict and have it have a through line for one episode, So
I think it's going to be released as one movie, though. I think it was going to be four.
Oh, seriously?
4 episodes, yeah. Maybe they'll do both, where it's like 4 chapters, or you can just watch it all at once. But okay. I'm thinking the way they're talking about it now, it's just going to be a big 4-hour movie.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Well, that's like a mini series. 4 episodes,
basically,
each 1 hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll have to watch it like that. But who knows? Maybe if he has more time, it will be better developed. Were there any writer changes on the movie, or is it just Zack Snyder?
Well, the writer on BvS was David Goyer, and then Chris Terrio came on later. I think Justice League is solely Chris Terrio.
Got it. Okay, so just one writer. And
did
Chris Terrio come back for Snyder Cut, or is it just kind of he's just working off the material that he already had?
Yeah, I don't think they had to write anything new. I think most of Snyder Cut is just footage that was shot but unused for the theatrical.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so there's rumors or reports that they added several scenes. I never saw the original version, so I don't know what's going to be added post announcement or what was originally there all along.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like really curious about what the heck this beast is going to be.
Yeah.
I did see tweets, not a direct quote from Christopher Nolan himself, but apparently Christopher Nolan went to an early screening of Justice League, and he says it's the best DC film ever made.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Apparently?
There's tweets. Apparently, yes. That's the word on the street.
Okay, wow. Well, that'll be that's I'm just gonna like keep my expectations milk toast. And then hope that I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I don't have like I don't have like a fear of watching the movie, but I'm not like stoked out of my mind. So
not like me.
I know you are stoked out of your mind, and that makes me excited to watch it.
Okay. Well, did you see the theatrical Justice League?
I did, yes. The Justice League.
Yeah. Real quick, what'd you think of that?
I did not like it. It felt like two movies that were mashed together.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
It was just it was at least DC's stuff that before then was like consistent, and it seemed like they were trying to do one thing with it. This one felt like they like desperately tried to grab as much Marvel as they could and stuff it into this movie to like yeah, it did. It felt like the focus group movie version.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I don't. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't really remember it super well. But
all right, yeah. I'm really curious about Justice League because I feel like it's the Zack Snyder version is going to be very, very purely Zack Snyder in a way that I don't even think Batman v Superman is. I feel like when you watch Batman v Superman, even the Ultimate Edition, there's parts of it that still kind of feel maybe slightly disjointed, or this was here because the producers were like, we need to start setting up a Justice League movie, and he had to like kind of work with that a little bit.
Maybe clicking on the superhero apps.
Yeah, scenes like that. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if maybe Zack would have put that in without external pressure, but I feel like that didn't really add that much to what he was trying to do. But with Justice League, I feel like they just kind of gave him the reins. Like, look, you've had people clamoring after your movies for so long. Just do your thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, it remains to be seen, but yeah, I'm excited to watch it and talk about it with you for sure.
Okay, that's gonna happen. Yeah, I don't know. That might take a while before we get that out.
Yeah,
I feel like I'll want to analyze it a lot. Maybe we'll do like a quick first impressions video.
There we go. Yeah.
And then I'm sure I'll be cranking out analyses left and right.
I love it. Well, speaking of analyses, let's I'll maybe conclude with, so this movie didn't really do it for me. But you love this movie. You know, it's not perfect, but you love it. So why do you love it? I have my Why Though poster back here. Why?
Why though?
Why though?
Oh gosh, man. So, I mean, it starts even back in Man of Steel. I think the Superman we see there is a guy who he clearly doesn't fit in anywhere he goes, and but he's so set on doing the right thing. And there's a lot of aspects in his journey there that I relate to a lot. Not trying to say I'm like a lone Superman and no one understands me, but
you're more like Batman anyway.
We'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then taking that character and then everything that he had to grow into through Man of Steel, seeing how he reacts with Batman, who epitomizes human cynicism, which I really dislike about the world we live in. I don't think it's cool to be cynical or pessimistic.
Yeah. Just kidding. You're not more like Batman.
Yeah, I don't think it's cool to be like that, and I think it's it's good to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it's also cool to let people to give people room to make mistakes and come back from them. And I think that's what's coolest about Batman v Superman is it takes the most hard-hearted, cynical, jaded guy, and just by the example of like who you could be, being able to come back and have your final statement of the movie basically be that men are still good. I think that's like freaking beautiful, and it just hits me right in my heart. It like, yeah, I really believe in that message. That's just central to who I am as a person. So for people to be like Zack Snyder's pessimistic or he's nihilistic and grimdark or whatever, I really think you just miss the message of the movie, which is very hopeful to me. And so so I'm really excited to see how this pans out in Justice League and all that. Yeah, these movies mean a lot to me.
I love it.
They just take something I grew up with and just does something with them that reached me at in a different way when I needed it at that point in my life.
That's awesome.
So thank you, Zack Snyder. Thank you, Henry Cavill, my crush. Thank you, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot. Great stuff there.
Oh, I love it. That's great. Awesome. Oh, I can't wait to watch it and talk about it with you. It's going to be great. Cool.
It will, yes. All right, y'all. That's been the episode for today. I think I've blabbed long enough. But thanks for hanging out with us. Keep an eye out for future videos. We got a lot of fun ideas in the pipeline. So like and subscribe if you like us. I'll subscribe to you in return. I'll subscribe to your life. All right. Love you guys. Have a great day.
See you guys.